So what Ray Rathke set up was an organization that was completely opaque, the exact opposite of transparent, and an organization in which he called all of the shots, but the foot soldiers, the people who did the daily work, the organizers, the people who conducted the voter registration drive, many times they were primarily minority. And the culture of ACORN, according to Nate Toller, who's another ACORN whistleblower along with Anita Moncrief, the culture of ACORN was to encourage people, in many cases, to bend the rules, break the rules, lean over the rules in order to get the job done. And whenever they got caught, as ACORN employees often were in the voter registration drives, that often ended up with thousands of fraudulent registrations being turned in. In the case of Nevada, where ACORN itself is on trial, the organization itself is on trial for submitting voter registration forms that the local registrar estimates 48% of which were fraudulent. Half the forms they turned in were fraudulent. Whenever somebody got into trouble, ACORN simply blamed it on a few bad seeds, a few bad apples, and they threw them under the bus. So you had an organization that basically operated a plantation-style management structure. And often it acted in a way that was completely contrary to its professed ethics. In 1995, ACORN went into California court and demanded an exemption from the minimum wage law of the state of California. At the same time that it was distributing petitions, trying to get ballot measures before voters that would raise the minimum wage. Why did ACORN do this? Well, as they said in their court pleading before the court in California, if we are forced to pay the minimum wage to our workers, we won't be able to hire as many of them in order to get the job done of getting these petitions signed. In 2003, the National Labor Relations Board sanctioned ACORN for breaking up efforts to unionize inside ACORN, and it forced the reinstatement with back pay and other compensations to several employees who had been trying to unionize ACORN but had been fired by ACORN. And this is a pattern that was repeated in several other ACORN offices. So you had an organization that was both at war with standards and at war within itself. Now, this is where some people in ACORN stepped forward after they realized what was going on, especially after the embezzlement that Wade Rathke's brother Dale Rathke participated in. Embezzled at least $1 million, could have been up to $5 million according to the Louisiana Attorney General's office. And the embezzlement was covered up for 8 years by Wade Rathke and other people on the ACORN board. Why? Because it would be, the revelation of this embezzlement would have been used to attack ACORN. So rather than do the right thing, they decided to cover it up. Well, several board members became very upset by this. They stepped forward and demanded an audit of the ACORN books. They demanded a full review. They demanded cleaning it out from top to bottom because they wanted to return ACORN to its original ideals and its original mission. And some of ACORN's affiliates have done good work over the years. The ACORN 8, as they became known, how were they treated by the rest of the ACORN board? Well, rather than listen to them, they were thrown off the board. Rather than agree to an independent audit, they were removed. And now there's litigation between the two sides. The ACORN 8, the 8 brave ACORN reformers who stepped forward and said we want to clean up ACORN, have been removed from the scene. They tried to get the attention of the media. Anita Moncrief tried to get the attention of the media, and with a few exceptions, and I'd like to say the Wall Street Journal was one of those exceptions, with a few exceptions they were largely ignored. That's because I think the media has a basic prism through which they view all of these issues through, which is minorities are only victims, and liberal groups that profess to look out for the interests of minorities can only be their saviors or good guys. Well, it turns out it's far different than that. It is far different than that. Racism exists in this country. I think people who practice racism need to be discredited. We need to drive racism out of our public life. But racism also acts in a way that blinds us, perhaps, to things that happen under the color of race. ACORN was able, by pushing forward minority faces, to distract people's attention from what was really going on behind the scenes. And I think it's a lesson to us that we cannot take anyone's good intentions at face values. Watch what people do, not what they say. Now,